Madam Chair, you do have a quorum.
All right, yes. So this is what I wanted to do before we ever begin this meeting. I'm just going to preface this meeting with the fact that our stated mission, and I know you all know half of this, but I got to tell you again, is to promote, protect, and improve the lifestyle of CCRC residents throughout the United States. And our amended bylaws stress that we are led by a board of directors of from 9 to 11 people, and a simple majority will constitute a quorum of that board. It's implicit at this point that our charge that we conduct a coordinated team effort that's truth. And everybody's here except Judy Moss and Bob Nicholson. So I was just kind of preluding this meeting with the fact that it's implicit that trust and congeniality of the board, it goes along with our charge that we have as members of this board, and that we conduct ourselves in a very professional manner. The president leads, the board governs, and in between meetings, the executive committee is empowered to handle issues that arise that will be communicated to the full board after the fact. But it's stressed here for me to tell you that the executive board is not a secret society. It's all in the bylaws, and trust has to be implicit. Ron Herring, unfortunately, had to tender his resignation because of health reasons, but he has communicated to me that he feels that even though he cannot continue, that we all recognize that it's vital that as NaCCRA board members, we have to realize that NaCCRA is not now a good old boy network, and that we must not continue to be infighters and so forth. He stressed that we must pursue an in-depth organizational analysis before any further major or substantive policy or operation protocols are taken, because we have to get our act together. He urged us to recognize that if NaCCRA is to continue to grow and function, we must take a really hard look at ourselves and be aware of that it's possible for a skilled professional who is available to help us take a good hard look at ourselves, to assess our strengths and weaknesses, and how best to plot a roadmap for the future. And he had this gentleman pretty well lined up to help us do this, and then after he had to resign, he said he would leave it up to us to make a decision on whether we should do this. I know we've done the strategic plan, and we did a little, but we have a long way to go in order for us to keep ourselves going. And so the committees that we have currently in place are the Pilot Membership Project Committee, Financial Soundness, Resident Rights, Nominating, Publicity, and the Timeline. But we have to really get ourselves better organized and really go for it. And in light of Ron's resignation as president-elect, your president, Ruth Walsh, took a good hard look at the bylaws and looked at the duties of all of the officers and what I could or could not do after he resigned, because his president-elect, he was going to be just outstanding. So we have to really work at continuing our progress. And in Article 8, Section 1, the duties of the president include the fact that with majority approval from the council members, I could appoint an individual member to fill an unexpired term of director who was unable to fulfill his or her term, and that I could, with the approval of the board, appoint committee chairs and so forth. To that end, and because timing is absolutely crucial, we cannot wait forever, I posited to what was left of the executive committee the name of Dan Seeger to serve as president-elect. You all have been appraised of his professional qualifications. He's qualified, having served as director of Friends Service Organization as well as chairman of his CCRC resident group down in Pennsylvania. He's got qualifications that are outstanding, and he was willing to undertake a Herculean jump. And thus, your president, Ruth Walsh, named Dan Seeger as a possible president-elect to the board of directors. And you know the scenario from there. I have urged others who might be interested in the position to let me know, and other than Marlene, who said no, and then Ellen Handler, who also declined, I was then submitted the name of Dan to the Board of Directors for approval. Some have urged restraint, others that we need more time, and actually time is not on our side. We have got to proceed because time is of the essence. And so we will continue this meeting, but I appreciate your vote of confidence in this decision, which was not made lightly, and we just our survival is at stake, and I just needed to preface this meeting with that information from the heart. And so, Rick, if you take the agenda, which was kind of sketchy when I did it, but the minutes of the meeting that was held on the 26th of October as well as the 27th of October have been submitted, and there were corrections that were added. Or are there any other corrections that needed to be made? Otherwise, they'll stand approved as submitted. Okay.
Ruth,
Yep.
Could I just say, this is Dan.
Yeah.
Everyone has had the revisions in green and red.
Yes.
The only thing I wanted to add is that we did approve by email the budget. And so I would propose to attach the approved budget to the minutes when they become official.
All right.
I think before we proceed, we should make sure the meeting has been called to order.
It has been.
I didn't understand that. I thought the preliminary remarks were prior to the beginning.
Well, we're going to call. We have called the meeting to order.
Okay.
So, with your approval, then we will proceed to attach the budget for calendar year 2014 as part of the minutes of that meeting, of the minutes of those meetings on the 26th and 27th. And then the financial statement was for October the 31st. There's not another one, is there?
No,
No,
the latest financial statement was circulated to all the board members.
All right. So you have had no comment.
A week or two.
Yep. So no other comment on that. Okay, so we can then proceed to put that aside and go on. Now, Judy Moss, and unfortunately she isn't here, wanted to see if we could postpone the decision on the member of Dan's nomination for the executive board and for the president-elect. But she's not on, so we're just going to have to proceed. Oh, good. We were just talking about you. We have
good things, I hope.
We have just concluded the approval of the minutes of the meeting. It was held in October in Dallas, and also the financial statement and the budget for 2014. So that's all set.
Thank you.
And so where we are at this juncture is to take a look at some different items, and I just had a small prelude to this meeting to include the fact that under the bylaws, and we're going by the bylaws strictly, it indicated that in the case of an unexpired term of a director who's not able to fulfill his or her term, that I could name someone with the approval of the board. And so I had submitted the name of Dan Seeger as president-elect. And then I had asked if there was anybody else that was interested, and we did talk with Ellen Handler, who was not interested. I asked Marlene if she would be interested in president-elect, and no, she would not be. There have been no other people who have indicated, so I really would appreciate it if we could, if you have any discussion. Otherwise, we will take a vote to accept the nomination of Dan Seeger as president-elect of NaCCRA.
Madam President, Shirley, could I ask Dan a question before we go?
Certainly.
Dan, just out of curiosity, as the last time I was deeply involved in the directory and in Pennsylvania Residents Association, your community did not participate with the Residents Association in Pennsylvania, and there was a very small number of residents in your community who were members of NaCCRA. Has the membership there grown, and what is the total membership now, and have you been able to persuade your community to join with the Residents Association of Pennsylvania?
Charlie, those are really great questions. Since I became president of our Residents Association, I served 2 terms as president of our Residents Association. I have taken the initiative to try to get Pennswood Village more involved in what we call Parker, the NaCCRA state, the state version of NaCCRA, and I have gone to those meetings regularly and brought some of my fellow residents to them. I have recently been appointed to the executive committee of Parker, and I'm just about to begin a term of service as the executive committee in Parker. Also, my parents were in Medford-Lees in New Jersey, the next door state, and I still have connections at Medford-Lees, and Medford-Lees has asked me to keep their oar in the water for them in NaCCRA, and I have an appointment to go to Medford-Lees tomorrow to meet with their residence council and with their also with one of their subcommittees to talk about NaCCRA to them. Charlie, you're correct that the membership of NaCCRA among Pennswood Village residents is very scant, and I have not added the recruitment of more residents from Pennswood Village to my agenda yet. And I have to confess that I'm a little, how shall I say, I do have this on my agenda as something to do, but as I read through the bylaws and see all the different varieties of memberships, plus the dues change, I'm thinking I would like to sort of get my head together, maybe after a talk with Bob Nicholson, on what is the best form from to try to get a good, strong Pennswood Village chapter going. I don't know if I should recruit individual members or whatever, but I have not given attention to recruitment here at Pennswood Village, and I certainly would plan to do so.
Yeah. Well, in all respect to Bob Nicholson, he would be the wrong guy to ask for information on forming a chapter.
Okay.
But it has to do with membership.
Okay,
go ahead.
As I understand it by our board directors now, everybody's just a director other than the 4 officers. But the two people who have formed a chapter and done it extremely well is Mr. Grossman up in Ohio and Bob Smith in the Estates at Carpenters in Florida.
Right.
So they would be your best source of information on how to go about forming a chapter.
I would be glad to do that. And I guess, Charlie, what I'm trying to explain is that as I read through the bylaws and saw the many different kinds of membership, I had a little trouble figuring out which, from NaCCRA's point of view, is the preferred mode of membership. Oh, that must be an accident. Anyway, so I will be glad to consult with those 2 people, Charlie.
Bennett appears even a better source.
Terrific.
Yeah. And it's
all right. I would like to add that in the next lifeline there will be 1 new member listed from Pennswood Village. It's David Swain.
Oh, excellent. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
But it's only 1. We need many more than that.
And
but he'll help.
When you go to Medford-Lees, be sure to see Helen Buchanan. B-U-K.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I know her very well, and I fully expect to see her.
She has been the New Jersey representatives in NaCCRA for a long time.
Yes,
She's a great gal.
she definitely is.
Madam Chair, this has been. I mean, there's
Yep.
six.
So what, Bennett?
There's six individual members now at Pennswood, including Mr. Seeger, who's a lifetime member.
Okay, that's wonderful.
So I can find out who they are, and they'll help me recruit more. We'll get a good group going here. I have no doubt about that.
Okay. Any other questions of Dan? And I know Judy, did you have anything you wanted to ask Dan, or is he?
No, I'm happy with him.
Okay, that's great. And I just needed to tell you also, you all, that when I sent the notice that I had put Dan's name in the hopper, that motion was seconded by Bob Nicholson, who cannot be here. He's on the road, from Jack Cumming, from Walt Boyer, and Jack Matheson. So we have some seconds. Is there any further discussion? You ready for the question? So, Dan, be sure you get this down. So, all in favor?
Okay.
Pardon?
Go ahead. Okay.
Okay. So, all in favor of Dan's nomination as president-elect of NaCCRA, please signify by saying aye. Please say your name, please.
Judy Moss, aye.
Aye, Jack Matheson.
Aye, Marlene Varner.
Aye, Charles Polk.
Bless you.
Aye, Jack Cumming.
Aye, Joe Walton.
So that's almost unanimous, I believe, and so I do thank you so much, and congratulations.
Madam President?
Yes.
Charlie Polk again. Since we now have a president-elect, we're short a secretary, and I would like to nominate Jack Cumming for that position.
All right. This will be a pro tem, and actually, when I talked with Dan, he had indicated, because there's only this one meeting plus whatever else we have. Could you do double duty, Dan, or would you like?
Well, I'm definitely taking the minutes right now.
Yeah.
And but Ruth, if you don't mind, if I could just back up for a second.
Sure.
You didn't ask if there were any opposed, and I think as secretary I should record if there were any opposed.
There are none that I heard. I thought I heard everybody say aye.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't catch that at all. Okay, great.
It is appropriate to ask for opposed and abstaining.
Yeah. Is there anybody opposed or abstaining? And I did not vote because I did not. But that's the way it is for president, unless I was going to break a tie, so I didn't have to do that.
Okay.
So that's good. So it's unanimous. And I thank you all, and I thank you, Dan, for accepting the position. Now,
well, and I thank everyone for having the confidence in me to do this vote. And I know that some have felt that I was a little half-hearted in my approach to the office. I want to assure people that I will work to the utmost to do this in as effective a way I can, and that what appeared to be half-heartedness was not lack of enthusiasm for NaCCRA or for doing the job, but you might say a desire to be sure that there was room for other people to step forward if they wanted to, and not to sort of elbow out other people.
But we got that squared away, and as my mother would say, just say thank you. So I thank you. So now for the secretary slot, and this would be until the annual meeting. So Jack was nominated by Charlie.
And I would second that. It's Marlene.
Marlene seconds the motion. Any discussion, or are there any other nominees? All right, so we'll call us nominations closed. All in favor of Jack taking over as interim pro tem secretary, please signify by saying aye. And I guess we better have this all in just please signify by saying aye and your name.
Aye, Dan.
Aye, Walt Boyer.
Aye, Judy Moss.
Okay.
Aye, Joe Walton.
Aye, Judy Moss.
Aye, This is Jack Cumming. I don't know whether I vote, but I accept the responsibility.
Yeah, you better vote because you got a lot to do. All right, Jack.
I'm going back on mute.
Jack Matheson, did you vote?
Yes, I said yes.
Yes, you did. Okay. So that's our two officers for the moment, and so I appreciate this more than I can express. I really.
Jack, do you want me to continue today, or do you want to take over right now?
Well, he's in the car.
Okay.
Aren't you in the car, Jack?
Yeah, I'm. Yeah.
But so go ahead, Dan. Finish the job today.
I'll finish today. Right. Okay.
Okay, and then the other interesting thing is, as the president-elect, because Dan, when I had talked with Ron, he was going to kind of oversee the pilot project that Bennett speak to that, will you? The membership pilot program.
Sure. Do you want me to go ahead and start now?
Yep.
Effectively, I'll just, if there's any questions, I think that the documents are fairly straightforward, and since I wasn't there at the in-person meeting, in Dallas, there was obviously some, requests for some additional narrative, and what we tried to do is obviously fill in some blanks relative to the time frame and why we had not commenced work in the fourth quarter of this year, and then also basically break down the action plan by quarter in 2014. The one element I would make sure that you have context behind is on the right-hand column of the second document, which is the action plan, quarterly action plan. It purposely does not have expenses associated with each quarter.
Right.
Those will be filled in as we go, but what the board should be, confident in is the overall budget of expenses annualized. That's the budget. So we have to work within the parameters of what the budget allows, and we'll break that down by quarter. And each quarter we'll report to the board where we are in terms of activity and ROI, and then also obviously the expense that's been incurred during that quarter. But we have to live within the means of what's the budget, a budget approval provides. So hopefully it gives a little bit of good clarity in terms of, each quarter what the core activity will be, and then we'll be reporting to the board all along, how things are going, and obviously if we're up or down compared to our projections, if you will. Okay.
Is there any questions of Bennett? And it's very fortuitous that now that Dan is our president-elect, because I was going to ask him to work with Bennett on this membership pilot program. So right. Your first job is all set for you, Dan.
Right.
I have lots of questions
yes.
on it. For example, I don't know, Bennett, who is going to write the brochures and who is going to review that the brochures meet NaCCRA's content and style?
Yeah, effectively, the answer to your question, your new brochure is an example that, has been circulating and that you used at your trade show in Dallas. Effectively, we meaning partners, develop the kind of the editorial content and the graphic design elements, and we circulated that to some of the key leadership, especially obviously your membership vice president, during that time frame to get input and suggested changes. And so, effectively we would follow that same model. Staff, meaning partners, would develop the draft content. Then we would circulate that for approval to whoever the board designates, that you want to give authority for that to take fold. They would sign off on it, and then we would move forward. But we would do the development side. The board or designated leadership on the board would sign off on it, and then staff would execute once approval is given.
Okay. I didn't know about the draft, and I didn't know that the board designee would be involved in it. so that's fine.
Yeah, good. So we will proceed, and Dan, if you will work.
I think, Madam Chair, she might have some more questions.
Yes, I'm sure you do. But
Sorry.
I had another question, which is not directly related to this. Who updated the logo? Was that your office? Or?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That included Hawaii and Alaska.
Yeah. Do you think Alaska is in the right position?
Well, given the context of to be frank with you, the logo is difficult in and of itself. That's another issue. But in order to make it fit nicely, I'm not going to say it's geographically where you'd want it to be, but to get it to where it's all in one place, that within the current logo you have, that was probably the best outcome you could get.
Great, and I got to say that Jack Cumming, who's also worked with Bennett on this, so it was a combined effort to be sure to get in Alaska, be sure to get in Hawaii, and have it all aesthetically. Okay.
I personally think, and people around here think, that we lose tremendously by having Alaska in the wrong place.
Well, would you be willing to take a look at this and you take a new design or fix the design so that it would your people would think this was a reasonable logo?
Well, it was just moving Alaska up, but Bennett is saying that there are difficulties in putting it in the right place, and I'm not a designer.
Work with him.
So you just want it up a little bit higher, that's all?
A lot a bit higher, yeah, where it belongs.
Take a look and get it. You do a cut and paste and fix it up, and then send it to Bennett, and then see what you all can come up with.
Okay. Sure.
If your question is, and we could talk offline, Ms. Moss. If your question is moving Alaska north of that circle, so that it's out there by itself, and obviously, probably the far left corner, that's easy in and of itself. We could do that if that's the issue.
Yeah, the issue is that it be in right geographic position.
Okay, so if you have that assignment, if you would work with Bennett.
Yes, I shall.
Thank you.
Do.
Thank you.
Bennett, I'll call you tomorrow or the next day.
Yeah, you don't have to call me. I'll have a designer go ahead and draft that, and then I'll send it to you, and then we'll determine if it fits the mix for you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question you have of Bennett?
Not at the moment.
No. Okay. So are we ready to drive on? Okay.
Yeah. Ruth, this is Dan. Do I need to know for the minutes who is the designated board people who are going to look at the brochure draft?
What has happened in the past was they then sent it to me, and I don't know if I shared it with anybody, but it just and then Marlene, did you see it too?
No, I've never seen it.
No.
No, Ms. Barner did get copied on the brochure during the course of the summer. So when we were going back and forth,
I haven't seen it.
I
you can resend it. That would be fine.
Ms. Barnett was back in the summer. It wasn't recently. It was back early summer when we were developing the membership brochure, the trifold.
Well, and then
because you gave us
so much, so I may have missed it.
Yeah, you gave us input actually, which we took and made changes based on your input.
So if you have any question of Bennett, Marlene, or Judy, or anybody, you need a committee, Bennett, or just to pass it on? It's
really up to whoever is interested in reviewing those materials as we're using them through the quarterly action plan when we're doing the solicitations, that people can have a chance to review and give input to the collateral material. So, minimum of 3, I wouldn't say more than 5 or 6 would be necessary.
So Dan, how about that? If you could just sort of oversee all of that.
Sure. In other words, I'll assume that Marlene and Ruth are
Judy. And Judy.
I'm sorry, and Judy. Okay, Marlene, Ruth, and Judy will be the review committee.
Alrighty.
Dan, this is Jack. I'd like to have a look at that.
Okay, fine.
Okay, so then that way we can coordinate, and our central person to be in touch with would be Dan, and then so Bennett won't be inundated with a whole lot of things. So if that's okay, you'll be Dan, be the point man, and then we'll go from there.
Fine.
Okay. Now, is there anything more on that?
Yes,
Bennett,
I have a
thank
question.
You. Yes.
There is a very large new membership group at Westminster at Chesapeake Bay, or whatever the whole name of that group is. Is that intended to be a chapter, Bennett, or don't we know?
I haven't personally interacted with them, so I don't know what their
very
intention
large
is.
new membership list in our will be in the next issue.
Yeah, I haven't honestly. I haven't personally talked to him. I don't know if Reverend Nicholson has or not.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes.
I have interacted with Jean Hurley. I believe she formed a chapter there, and she's looking for how you get recognized as a chapter, because we have now the chapter in Lakeland, we have the chapter in Ohio, we have this chapter at Chesapeake Bay, and there doesn't seem to be a response from the membership administration on this whole development.
Well, Can I ask you a question, Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'm assuming Mr. Cumming is referring to Partners as membership administration. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so I'm not following. What are you actually? What are you or what are they seeking outside of normal response?
Why don't we speak offline when I'm not caught in a traffic jam?
That's a good idea. But just to coordinate that so that we're all on the same page of and whether they want a chapter or. And I know that now the gentleman who is the president of Virginia is ill, and I don't know who in Virginia to talk to other than the person who's the chairman of that residence council to figure it out. But Jack, can you do that when he's not caught in the traffic jam?
Yes. I was the one who was instrumental in getting that chapter formed. So
yeah.
Okay.
You follow through on that. Thank you. All right. Anything else for Bennett on the pilot program? Thank you. And on the line now is Milt, who is the chairman of our nominating committee. And Milt, do you want to say anything or what have you? We are in the process of trying to elicit how many vacancies there are going to be on the board. And as far as I know, at this point, there are just two. One is Ron, who has resigned, and I will rotate off, and I will become past president. So we have other. Is there anyone who wants to rotate off? Because what we have to do is to work according to our bylaws. We are going to be having a 3-cycle kind of a thing, so that a third of the board goes off every year, so that and you can be reelected to a board membership. But we need to get the cycle in motion. So we were hoping that. Is there anyone else who wants to get off the board at this point? No. Okay, so I'll work with...
Wait, don't say no too quick. Charlie Falk, I would gladly leave the board if Milt has someone to replace me with. I will continue to work as hard as I can for NaCCRA, but I would really prefer not to be a board member.
Really? So you'd want to rotate the thing about Charlie, he has such great wisdom that, would you still be an advisor for us?
I would have no hesitancy to work or do anything that I could with any of the other board members or with Bennett. I consider all of you my good friends, and I still have a very warm spot for NaCCRA, and I want to see it to get where it should be.
That's right.
And I think we've got to get to where 3 people are rotating off each year, and someone besides me's been on 3 years, that they'll think about rotating. No, I really like the Florida system. You can run for 2 terms. You get 3 years, and you can run for 2 terms, and then you have to sit out a year. And that's a good system.
Great. So
but I have solicited a very professional CPA from Florida who is willing to become a board member, John Dulcimer. I've talked with him just recently, within the last 2 weeks. He's a young man. He's been president of the Florida Life Care Residents Association. He's now chair of the John Knox Village Pompano Beach Foundation, which has several $1 million in it. So he has the professional and the NaCCRA FLACRA experience, and would be a outstanding board member for FLACRA and give us that on-hand CPA knowledge that we are missing right now.
Yes, that sounds good. Now, you taking notes, Milt? Is he there? Milt, are you still here?
Yes.
Yeah. So take a note or two there.
Yeah.
And I wrote his name down. Milt, you want to say anything before I start on that?
You want to make your remarks first, go right ahead.
All right. Well, Milt is chairman because of the bylaws. The presidents of the state associations have now become an informal nominating committee because you know the people within your states, and you know that you probably have the wealth of information on potential board members. So Milt's been working, and we've been working with him. And at this point, then, with John Dulcimer, did you ask John if he would be willing to do this, Charlie?
Yes, I did. In fact, we've met 3 different times on it, and he asked all the right questions, and then he thought it over for 2 weeks and called me back and said I would accept a nomination.
Okay, so where we are now, then, at that point, then, because there are the 2 people rotating off, and if you are willing to do that and still stay on as an advisor, that would be 3 people to rotate off. And now we have a total of 6 possible candidates for the 3 positions. There's Gerald Highland, who is a really brilliant gentleman from Oregon, who has a lot. I don't know what his expertise is, except what but he's just really right on top of things. And I did ask him, and he would be willing to serve. I talked with Ellen Handler yesterday from New Jersey, and she said she doesn't want to get both feet and both hands going because she's very busy with New Jersey, but she would consider election to the board of directors for NaCCRA. Checked with Jennifer Young, who is very vivacious and very energetic from Texas, from Tyler, Texas, who's in a CCRC down there, and her parents were CCRC people before Jennifer and her beau. So there's 3 yeses I know. There's a gentleman whose name is Angelo Giambuso from Edgewood Retirement Community in North Andover, Massachusetts, who has indicated he would be willing. And then somebody else whose name is Rod Johnson from Naples, Florida. Do you know him, Charlie?
I know the name. I don't know him personally.
Yeah. So we have then a potential of 6 people for 3 slots. And what Milt has to do is we're going to put a notice in the next Lifeline, which is the deadline is the 3rd of February, just announcing that there are possibilities for slots for board of directors. If anybody else is interested, they have to be nominated. And so then we would take care of those. Don't
we have to have the slate in next issue?
No, all we're doing is calling for.
When do we have to notify the membership of who the candidates are?
Well, it's like yesterday. So I don't know how we do this if we're still calling for nominees. The only other thing we could do is to simply have the slate for, and I just need your thinking on this, to publish the slate, send that to you on the 3rd of February. But then if there's any other candidates from the floor or anybody else.
I think that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Because I really think we need to let the membership know in the next issue of Lifeline who the announced candidates are. And if we have 6, we have a choice.
Yes, we do. Right. And then if anybody else wants to be nominated, to run, they could indicate to us right off. They could be nominated from the floor, but those would be 6.
But we may be able to find some before the 3rd to get the mill.
Yeah.
But I think when we put the next issue to bed, we should have our nominees available to our membership.
Absolutely.
Ruth,
yes.
Charles again. I would like to urge the board to, and I know Milt and I have talked about this too. We really need to seek out specific needs.
I know.
CPA was a specific need. We still need a lawyer, and I'm working on a lawyer right now also.
What is Gerard? Where does Gerard? I can't even pronounce his name. Highland. What is his expertise? Financials, I know.
Yeah.
I think he's an engineer, isn't he?
What?
Gerard Highland is an electrical engineer with a background in the utilities business.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. One of the areas that we do not have presently covered is somebody to champion our legislative needs.
Well, Jim Haight and Rod Johnson are both attorneys, and both have background in advancing legislation. And Alan Handler, of course, has an excellent record advancing legislation in New Jersey.
Great. And she said we've looks as though if we have an attorney and there's that we have John Dulcimer is a CPA, we have Alan Handler who's just very skilled, and so it looks as though we've got a pretty good name as a good slate of names to select from.
Ruth, to help, another thing I'm doing at this present time, the estates at Carpenters, the management team has just voted to let the residents select Susan Weiss to become an honorary resident of the estates at Carpenters.
How about that?
And as I understand the bylaws, if she accepts our invitation to be an honorary member, that then gives her the credentials to be a board member. And there's not another better federal legislative person in the country that I know of than her.
Okay, well, it looks like we got a good slate there. Now, we can't do anything until she's actually on board as an honorary member. I have to check the bylaws.
No, she don't even know this yet. I just got the approval of the Residents Association and management, and I wanted to do both of them officially because we're going to make a big deal out of it and have a Susan Weiss Day down here and bring her down and get a little publicity on it and make her an honorary resident of the Estates of Carpenters.
For those that don't know, she is a life member.
Very good.
Of NaCCRA.
Good. All right, so that's another possibility. So, Milt, we'll get back with you and we'll figure this out.
And Milt, one of the things I would like to have for the next Lifeline, for all the candidates, I would like to have a picture. And it's easiest for us to deal with it if they're sent to us electronically.
Got that, Milt? Yeah. You and I will talk later.
Yeah, we'll have to.
Yeah.
The main point that I wanted to make today is the fact that we do have a fairly clear picture of where we stand right now. Mm-hmm. The elections for 14, this process is covered by the also in Article 5. Mm-hmm. And but the main thing is we want to try and put out an announcement to each chapter and as soon as possible with this information that we've been discussing.
And
So be aware of the fact that how the process runs. And because so many people feel that they have to decide they want to be president before they can run for the board.
Yeah, absolutely. And you need to have some hands-on experience before you undertake the presidency, and that's really important. And that's why I was so thrilled to have this president-elect, because you got to groom, and Dan's groomable. So I think that's really great.
Thank you, Ruth. Ruth, I've just been looking. Ruth, this is Dan. I've just been looking at the bylaws, and the bylaws do expect that the membership as a whole will receive some notification that we're accepting candidacies. So I don't know if that's happened.
No, it has not, and so that's why we got to do that. We're going to do that, and then indicate in the article that if people would like to be nominated from the floor at the annual meeting, that they could let us know who they are, where they are, and their expertise, and they could be put it onto the ballot as well.
Right. Okay.
I
So
think one of the biggest mistakes is, and we try to explain it in the memo that I would like to see go out to each chapter, that you don't pre-select what position you're going to serve.
That's exactly right, and you got to make that clear to everybody. You go on as a board member, and then the board does the electing of the officers. And
one of the things that I can do, I'm at the second proof stage of this issue, this upcoming issue. If you will prepare me a 1 or 2 sentence thing that I can insert.
What kind of time frame?
Well, I like it this week. Part of my objective is I'm not rushing this through, because I don't want people to get it before Christmas, because I don't think they'll read it before Christmas.
Right.
And so I'm trying to figure out how to proof by proof
information you
want, so that it won't go out too soon.
Yep, I know it. And Milt sent me a poop sheet today, and I'll dress it up, and then I'll send it to you, and then you can redress it up, and we'll try to have it.
Yeah, I think we can fit it in.
Yeah, good. All right.
I've already got in Ron's resignation in his picture.
All right.
So I will try to get that in so that we satisfy that part of the bylaws.
And the other issue is you need the pictures of the candidates, but not right.
Yes, for the February 3rd.
For the February. Okay, so we'll get everybody to have their pictures taken.
I have a question for Milt, please.
Yes, Judy.
You talk about notifying the chapters. What about the individual members?
That's what we have to do by way of the Net Lifeline.
Yeah, this is Dan. Let me see if I understand this correctly. In other words, Marlene, you are preparing a lifeline which is going to go out right after Christmas. And that lifeline will announce that we are receiving candidacies.
And
correct?
She's going to put in. Are you going to put in the names?
It's not in there yet, but I will try to get it in if I can get it. Like a 2 or 3 sentences.
If you can manage to get those 2 or 3 sentences in, that'll put us in conformity with the bylaws. The bylaws
that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
Then that'll put us in conformity with the bylaws. And then the next issue, if we have candidates and pictures, that's great.
Yeah,
but,
that would be in February.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds to me like we're in good shape.
Yeah.
And by the way, I think you'll be interested to know that Jennifer Young is starting a regular column called Ask and Share.
Oh, you told me that she was going to do that.
And in the upcoming issue, she has that article and one other that I asked her to write.
Good.
Great.
So, and she is crackerjack. And I think the fact that her mom and dad were also CCRC residents is interesting. So she's a second-generation CCRC person. That's really something. So
I see her as a potential future Lifeline editor.
Oh,
and I'm working in that direction.
And I know that Jack is also he's a PR person. I know that, and I'm not sure exactly how that happens, but he'll be another good one for us for articles and for publicity, and maybe working out a publicity campaign here and there. So we
have recruited another wonderful writer from Winston-Salem. She won't be in this issue, but she'll be in the next issue.
Good.
She's a regular column writer for the Winston-Salem newspaper. And she's crackerjack writer.
Isn't that great? So, and it's neat because you really work your heart out on this Lifeline, and it's good to have good assistance and grooming people for later.
I'm trying to groom some accessories.
I know.
Believe me. I've done it for over 5 years, folks. I'm getting tired.
Yeah. And now soon you can sit back and just we'll give you a nice pat on the back, and we'll all purr if you can get some good help. That's wonderful. All right, is there anything?
Right, this is Walt Boyer. I have a question for Milt.
Yep.
Real quick. Milt, I've just assumed the task of being president of the North Carolina Residents Association, and by that I assume I'm on your committee, but I have no idea who's on the committee or anything else. I wonder if you could send me a list of names and phone numbers and email addresses for the members of the committee that you have. I'm on the NaCCRA website, so you can find me on the NaCCRA website and send it to me.
Okay.
The problem that he has had is story of our lives, I think, too, because there are some people who are presidents of some organization, of some states, but we're not in touch, or they're not in touch with us. And like that George from Pennsylvania, what's his TJ? What, you know who I mean?
Yeah.
But he never communicates, and so it's kind of difficult.
Well, if you have trouble with Pennsylvania, try to get a hold of Julia Hicks. Sometimes she can.
She could work that. And then
as far as Massachusetts, which you probably never hear from either.
No, I don't.
Sometimes Ann Winslow can figure that out for us.
Yeah, and I did get a note from her indicating that she would like to talk with us, so that's good, and be in touch with us. So that really is excellent. So we're perking along. Anything else then from the nominating committee? And Milt, I just thank you for taking this task on, and we'll get things in motion. It'll work like a charm eventually.
But as far as priorities, I still think the first priority is to get a copy of this document we were working on today. I'd like to smooth it up a little bit, but send it out to each chapter president.
Okay. Yeah, but
have them solicit the names, even if don't know how we'll use them right now.
Yeah, but we'll have that's
and I think it not only the chapter presidents but the association chairman, because we have about 35 resident associations which belong, and they should be consulted as well.
And I think that's a wonderful idea, and actually from Will and from Bennett, you can get the names of those people and their current addresses. Are you still on, Bennett?
I am.
Yeah.
Most of them have email. So once you approve the final invitation, if you will, we could probably email most of them.
That would be wonderful.
And then you do a duplication, like Ms. Varner said, in the Lifeline, so everybody's going to see at least a little piece of it.
Now,
Bennett, by the way, the last community association, there were 2 new association members, and one of them was in Florida, and Will did not have the name of the community, and it should be included. It's Lakeport Square.
Okay.
I haven't had a chance to email him. There were several things. There were duplications and blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
But he didn't have the name of that one in Leesburg, and it's Lakeport Square. So
all right, we'll change that.
Is Will the person that they should be in touch with, Bennett?
I mean, for data requests, that'd be fine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because otherwise, you get it and then you have to pass it on. But I didn't know how you wanted to do that.
That's fine. Yeah, but I'll make that change on Lakeport Square. That's good.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So, anything else on the nominating? And we'll get the act together and it'll all work out, I'm sure.
Now, can I share one really exciting new piece of news?
Yes, please do.
One of the people I talked to at our booth in Dallas is Dave Game, the new president of the board of Leading Age.
Mm-hmm.
He's from, I think, Lutheran Homes of Michigan. And I wound up also having lunch with him. He's a new life member of NaCCRA. That's the first time we've had one of the Leading Age Board of Directors members join our association.
Isn't that wonderful?
Isn't that exciting?
Yeah,
and president.
And I write to each person who becomes a life member, so when I get his address, I'll give him a XX cheer, cheer, cheer.
And he's another one, Bennett, that Will didn't have the association, and I will be sending it to him. I think it's Lutheran Homes of Michigan, but it's on the Leading Age website.
All right, thank you.
And we really need to pay attention to that one.
And see that to me too, will you, Marlene?
Yeah.
So I'll have that. That's wonderful. Oh, good news. And he looks like I saw him at our table. I thought, man, it's the first time anybody's ever been there. So
and he spent quite a bit of time with us.
I know he did. It was great. So that's wonderful. Well, thank you all for that. Anything else on nominations and this sort of thing? Are we all set there? Okay. The other issue that I wondered if you want to consider is the fact that Ron had felt that it was very important that we have this organizational assessment. And he knows some gentleman whose name eludes me, but somebody who's very skilled at this, and it would be like an all-day session kind of thing. But for us to really sit down with him and see where we are, what we need to do, how we need to do what we need to do to keep this momentum going. And so at that point where Ron resigned, he said, I'll just pull back. But I was wondering, are you interested, is the board interested in this kind of a thing where we sit down, at not at leisure, but certainly with some time to be able to talk, discuss, and really do some soul searching about where we need to go and how we need to get there? Just anything?
This is Dan. The only thing I want to add to that is that Ron made it clear to us that the person he has in mind would cost money.
Yes.
So we have to, as we know, the budget is in a deficit situation, so that's just part of the picture we should keep in mind.
Yeah. But we figured go ahead, Judy.
I think it would be a great idea for the board to sit down and discuss where we are and where we're going. I don't think we need to be assessed at that point. I think the board first has to discuss it amongst ourselves.
Well, we did a similar kind of thing when we did the strategic plan, but we really need to be more intentional now and see how we can assess where we are and how we can proceed. And how that happens, I don't know, other than to have some good professional help or that kind of thing. And when we had talked before with Ron about this, he thought there was probably a way we could pay him minimal. But so I don't know. I truly don't know. But it would be helpful if you all think so. That this.
Well, I think the timing is something we need to think about. With the new board members coming on, I think we need to wait before we do something like that until we have our new board members on board.
And then let them be oriented as well. Yep.
As well.
Yeah.
Right.
That's Boyer. That's a good point. But I would comment that we did that here in New North Carolina this last year. It was an unexpected cost and threw our budget out of kilter for a while. But it turned out to be very worthwhile, and I think you would find that the expense was worthwhile in this case, too.
Mm-hmm. So how much was it, do you know?
For our case, we spent an extra $2,000.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And was it a full day, or how did you do time-wise?
Yes, it was a full day, and they did a lot of follow-up work afterwards by mail with our board. So I felt it was very worthwhile and set us on a new track. And I think you can, those kinds of things, you don't do them every year, but you certainly can do them periodically, and it helps. Every 4 or 5 years, you probably ought to go through something like that.
Sounds wonderful.
Ruth,
wait a minute, I got Jack in the background there.
Yeah, this is Jack. I think this is a great idea. You've got to remember, though, that it's not just the $2,000 fee we might pay, but also the travel costs for board members, and that runs up the expense. With Dan Seeger coming, I have the feeling that we're going to be getting the direction we need. I'm listening to the discussion here and hearing great direction. So why don't we give it enough time to see if we can do something on our own before we conclude that we need to bring in somebody, and then we need to make sure that it's somebody that is the right person. We don't know the name or the qualifications of the person suggested.
Yeah, I have his name, and I simply neglected to get it. But I know, as Marlene suggested, it probably would be a good idea to wait now till after the new board is selected and elected, and then we can go with that. So then we can do some investigating and how best to do this.
Can it be planned to have a session at the April meeting? At the meetings I've been at, there's been no real board meetings, but a day set aside for that.
Well, that's in the planning stage, because we really, with the new possibility of new board members and what have you.
And so that should be a good orientation session, a work session, a planning session, and do it with the board before we have a professional. We do have a strategic plan we can look at and see whether it's worth anything or it's got to be revised.
Yep.
And so a day can be set aside for that.
Oh, really?
Here, Jack, for a moment.
Yep.
In my career, so spanning some 60 years, I have seen many companies come and go. When I worked with IBM, they showed us the big companies of that day, and they said it in 10.
I'm not hearing. We're not hearing this all.
And the point is that discussing probably the biggest project you can ever imagine. Look at the companies, Sears and Roebuck.
Mm-hmm.
You know, J.C. Penney's. You know, and Sears and Roebuck made the big mistake that they no longer were satisfied to sell to the middle class. They wanted to hit the upper class. They lost both.
Yep.
But it is an extremely tough question to deal with, and it just needs the right people. And you've got to have the right vision.
Mm-hmm.
Correct on the vision. And I've been involved.
Charlie Polk, I would, from my experience with working with organizations and volunteer boards, we've got a young man in our midst that's the most eminently qualified to do what you have suggested, and that's Bennett Napier, who understands both NaCCRA probably better than anybody else on this earth. So I would think before we go out and get someone else who we know nothing about, Dan would be much better served, or you, to discuss this with Bennett and let him do some work on this area, because I tell you, his leadership keeps the Florida board on track, and I would stack the Florida Life Care Residents Association up against any volunteer membership organization in the world.
And I concur. You've got a real treasure there, Bennett. Is that something you might want to consider?
Yeah, I'm happy to have the conversation. I mean, I was happy to do the session in Boulder, which was relatively short. It was only an hour and a half, really, or less.
So I know, and what I'm thinking for April is for everybody to come in on. We're going to have a day for a board meeting, and so this would be a really good spot. And so everybody has a calendar out. We would come in. And I know, Walt, you have a problem because you have the conflict of meetings. Sure. But come in on Wednesday, the 9th of April, and then a full-day board meeting on the 10th, Thursday the 10th. And then have the other meetings on Friday, the 11, and conclude mid to afternoon on the Saturday the 12th, which will give us time to orient new board members, to get everybody to see who we are, where we're heading, and but this will give us some good time as a board with new members as well. And so be thinking about those times. But Bennett, how's your schedule for that?
I mean, honestly, the best time frame for me to do that would be the 9th or the 13th, which would be post meeting. Yeah. You know, to give it time where people are focused on that issue at hand.
You couldn't do the 10, Thursday the 10.
I could. I mean, I could make that work, but it would be better on the But if the 10th was the best, I could probably make that work.
Okay. And I have information galore for housing for here. There are 4 guest cottages or 4 guest rooms, so the price is right. And rather than try to do this on the telephone, I'm just going to send to you all what motels and hotels are available, and our buses from Stone Ridge will pick up people and drop them off. And so the cost is going to be right. I think it's going to be a good thing. And then it's before Passover. It's before Easter, so everybody will have a chance to do what they need to do and get home for Passover or for Easter. Right. But I'll send you all of that information so you'll have it. We also have Hartford Bradley Airport has a big, and they're about an hour and a half from here. The Providence, Rhode Island Green Airport is about 35 miles from here, and all of the major airlines come in there. So, and we can do some transporting forth and back for that. And I'm hoping...
What's the other airport besides Providence?
It's Green Airport in Providence and Bradley Airport in Hartford. It's in just outside of Hartford, Connecticut.
Okay.
And as I say, all the major airlines come in there. And Marlene, I did tell you, I think that that hotel you were interested in is about 11 and a half miles from here, right down Route 95. So we got Route 95 right here, and so that makes things much easier for commuting. But anyway, I will send you all of that information in the mail so you can see where we're at. But if you could be tentatively planning to come in on Wednesday the 9th, and we'll do a meeting all day on Thursday the 10th, and go from there. They promise to feed us well, and the price will be right. And as soon as
okay, now are we through with that?
Yeah, I think so. Would anybody have any?
There's a very important message from Larry Minix today on the internet. And it has to do with an update on the Observation Days advocacy. It is very important today to call our congressman because Representative Sherrod Brown from Ohio and our Senator Sherrod Brown from Ohio and Debbie Starno from Michigan have offered Senate Bill 569, which counts all days in the hospital towards skilled nursing eligibility as an amendment to the legislation to address Medicare patients. It's called the Doc Fix Bill, and we're getting much closer to a solution on that. Today is a very important day to call. The number to call is 888-277.
Wait a minute. Everybody have a pencil?
888.
Okay.
277-8686. And tell your senators to support the amendment that supports the provisions of Senate Bill 569 into the Medicare bill. And I can forward that to anybody that doesn't get it.
Would you do that?
I will do it.
Okay, so this is Senate Bill 569.
And it has to do with days in the hospital, regardless of whether they're called observation or admission. The problem that's happening, and there's a letter to the editor about this from Knollwood in D.C., asking us to please work on this issue. It's a very important issue. People are not getting Medicare coverage to go into skilled nursing because they've been kept in observation in the hospital.
And that's what
instead
happens.
of being admitted.
That's right, and you have to be 3 days.
Yep.
Marlene, doesn't Leading Age have a provision on their website where you can send an email to them also on this?
I think so. Yeah.
That's a better route to go than the phone call, because in writing it don't get goofed up.
How do you get? What's the best way to get there if you go on the Leading Age website?
I haven't checked yet, but they normally have a website where you can go directly to your senator, and they have a prepared letter of support that you can either modify or leave it as is.
Uh-huh. Okay, and that's just www.leadingage.org, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, but I would suggest you modify it. I was talking to our congressman the other day, and he said 2 personal letters from his constituents outweighs 500 of these form letters that they get from all of the various entities around the country. Mm-hmm. He said his staff never sends the form letters in. They just count them and send in and say, I got 500 or 600 form letters.
Yeah.
But the personal letters do go into the congressman and the senator, and they get to personally see them.
Oh, dear.
So make it a personal letter.
Okay.
Now you're talking about a personal email, right?
Yeah,
today
personal
it needs
email
to be
also, yes.
Or today it needs to be done today. A letter, email or phone call today. It's very important.
Okay. Oh, that sounds. I know we've had that problem here. You're in the emergency room, but you're not admitted, and so all that time you spent doesn't count for anything unless you're 3 days in. So that's very important. All right. Is there anything else to bring before the House? Then.
Are you going to give us an update on Leading Age status?
Well, the only thing I can do at this point is that we received the note or the new version from Steve Mogg, and we really truly I have not given that any thought other than maybe it's just going to be to continue for the while our very great relationship where they still sponsor us for Leading Age conferences and give us their booth and there are those things, because I think one of the issues that at one point they wanted was for us to consider being part of Leading Age NaCCRA, and we just felt it was so very important to maintain our integrity as an organization. So that's about where we are.
This is Dan. Charlie, as best I can understand the situation, the board as a whole needs to discuss what our next steps are regarding this. I don't think we want to drop it, but I think we want to consider the fact that we've gotten a rather fulsome response from Leading Age after having sent a very concise MOU to them. Mm-hmm. And I think we want, as a board, to try to figure out what our next steps should be, whether we should take their longer version and try to adapt it to what we think is necessary, or whether we want to get them to reconsider our initial, because they never commented on our initial
they never did.
Submissions to them. So there may be, we may need to understand something from them about their position. So I think this is a big topic which we should put on an early board agenda and give it time for us all to think about together.
Is April too late to do this? Because we could include that.
I
presumably
would suggest another teleconference in July or January or February on that.
Okay. And just
I think we need something. I think we need something earlier than April. I would agree.
So that we could have a teleconference exclusively for Leading Age consideration.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I'd like to make another comment and I think I've worked closer with Larry Minix and his staff than probably anyone in the organization. Some of the board members are not aware of how vitally important Larry Minix has been to NaCCRA, and just a phone call to an executive director where we were working on membership, encouraging that executive director to cooperate with us in enlisting residents from that community to join NaCCRA. A good case in point was Larry picked up the phone and called Mr. Grossman's community and encouraged him to work with Mr. Grossman on getting them as members as a chapter of NaCCRA. And Larry has done this many, many, many times. One thing he's done that we've never been willing to do, he's always put residents on his House of Delegates, on his board, and now on his public policy forum. So, I don't think all the board members realize that we've...
Yeah, you did.
And I think we really need to get...
what we need to do is talk about this, because Larry is an enigma sometimes, and we really need, as Dan suggested, maybe in January or so, to have a meeting, a teleconference meeting, and just talk where we're at and what we need to do, because I'm sure I know how benevolent they have been as far as our registrations, as far as all kinds of facility for us. It's all been gratis, and I appreciate that. But it's just like it's so difficult to try to get in touch with him, and we need to see where we're at and how to do this best without everybody having a nervous breakdown. So if you are in accord, we will plan a conference call probably in mid-January. Is that a possibility?
Yep.
What
yep.
Do you have your calendars out? Is there any time we could do this right now to just set a time? And we'll send you information that you're going to need for that.
I would
January
also
23rd
like
is a bad day for me.
Pardon? What?
The 23rd is a bad day for me.
Okay.
But other than that...
How about the 15th?
That would be good for me. And
I don't know yet. I'm due for AARP tax aid training, and I don't have the dates. The first 2 weeks in January are reserved for training, and I don't know the date. And I can't come on the 23rd either because I'm committed to Walt.
Oh.
How about the 29th?
Well, that sounds like a possibility.
And that's a Wednesday, the 29th of January. How's that sound?
Yeah, that would be okay.
And what time is 1 o'clock good?
Yep.
All right. So
sure.
let's do this, and it will be, as one of my colleagues used to say, this is going to be Pacific to leading age. So let's just
right.
that will be it. It'll be very, very specified, just leading age consideration.
Ruth, could you consider calling Larry or ask Dan too and tell him that we're still working on our response to him and that we got this meeting scheduled?
Yep, I will do that, and I will do that. So we can, and
you need to let Larry know about Dan's election as well.
Oh, I shall. And so we will do that. But so 1 o'clock is okay for everybody.
So far.
Wednesday, the 29th of January at 1 p.m. And that is going to be good. Anything else to bring before the House today? I thank you so much. We got done in
You're going to get me something to try to squeeze in this issue about inviting nominations.
Yes. As we speak. And I'll try to get that either today or tomorrow, for tomorrow.
Is Bennett still on the line?
No, he went off.
No, he's gone.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Is Jack still on the line?
No, I think he went off.
Okay.
I think he did, yeah.
I had a name in Virginia for him, but I'll send it by email.
Okay.
Great.
But I just thank you, and Dan and I thank you so much.
Well, thank
Dan,
you all.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
it.
it. Thank you so much. I appreciate your confidence, and I'll do my best.
I know you will.
We know you will.
Yeah.
We know you.
Okay, then this is it at 2:24. That's good.
Have a great holiday, everyone.
Yes, take good care. Yeah, thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.